Speaking on the next generation, let's say children, right? Because you spoke on children already, but I think, we talk about technology, right? Of course, we see the giant companies getting in trouble because of the harm that social media has on the mind of the youth. But I want to know if you have found some specific things that are harmful to children, specifically when it comes to AI, that parents should know, right? Like, let's say the shaping of reality, like it's going to be very hard to know what, if the algorithm is specifically designed to your child's profile, then they're giving them a completely different reality when they're watching their phone than you are, right? Which are then creating these suggestions and influences on the pattern development of your child. Because when you're in those younger ages, that child doesn't have that same conscious profile to say yes and no, because they don't have a an identity to hold on to say this is me or this is not me, right? So in what ways have you seen where technology is really targeting children in that capacity?
Oh, let me not get sued. I would say first and foremost, the data that these companies collect on your children in violation of privacy laws. So I'd say do not expect, just because there's a rule that says that a company can't do X, Y, or Z, that they're going to obey it if there's no real accountability measures. So recently, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, which is really the only government body that's like going after tech companies for messing up with their algorithms, they came after Amazon because Amazon and their little Alexa system was keeping copies of children's voice recording without permission, even when people had asked that they be deleted. And they kept copies of those voice recordings and even lied to the FTC about how long they had kept them for. You know what their punishment was?
What's that, a fine?
A $25 million fine.
Pennies.
Now, Europe got it on lock. Europe literally just today, I think they fined Apple $2 billion for anti-competition. They'll slap Apple with a $2 billion fine. They'll hit Google with a $6 billion fine. We don't do that here. So just understanding that, like, when you're using any always on technology, that's what they call it, always on. So you got your phone set to listen to Hey Siri. That means she's always listening to you. She might only respond when you say Hey Siri, but she's always listening to you. Your Alexa, same thing. Any of those voice assistants, all of those things are always recording you. So if you don't want your child's voice being used to make their algorithms better, or God knows what them people doing with that data on the other end. Why are you keeping children's voices? That's creepy to me.
Yeah.
You could put it in a data set and then train the algorithm and then delete it. Why you got it for months and months after? I don't know. I don't trust it, right? So if you don't want your children's voices being subject to these things, like their actual literal voices, then you got to turn those features off. Now, that does come with inconvenience. I like being able to yell at Siri and tell her to do something, but I don't want you to have my voice all the time.
Right.
I don't want you around when I'm having conversations about my feelings, or when I'm having conversations with my mom about, her health. Like, you don't need to hear that. You don't need to keep copies of that, right? So turn those features off. The other thing is with social media platforms in general, especially like your YouTubes, your TikToks, your Meta, your Instagram. It's about the ranking and recommendation algorithms. So you always hear like the recommendations, the algorithm, the feed, if you will. Ranking and recommendation works in two ways, right? So you have, in order to recommend what you should watch next or what you should see next, there's two things that go into that. So it's ranking and recommendation. So the first is that they assign every item in their whole like database of items a score, right? Based on your profile and your preferences. So your profile is like, oh, I speak English. So they're not going to recommend all the Russian videos to you. Or like, oh, I'm based in San Francisco. So if you like sports, they probably might pop up like the Giants or the Warriors for you, right? So they take this kind of your static data that you give them about who you are. And then they take your preferences. So that's what you've liked, what you've watched a long time, what you've commented on, what you've shared. That demonstrates to them that you prefer this kind of content. So once they use those two things to assign it a score, then all you end up seeing in the recommendation is a list of those items based on what's got the highest score. So you as a parent have to be constantly double checking what starts to come up on your child's feed, because it's not like you set the content one time and it's going to keep your kid safe. If your kid accidentally likes some videos, Maybe one day they watch something, they're angry, they start liking those videos. They're going to get more of that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can undo that by going into their likes and unliking the videos and downvoting them, right? So actually monitoring and maybe like once a week checking in on what's starting to show up on your kid's feed so that you have a way to control that. Another thing is actually using the children's settings on these apps. Like, don't just let your kid go to youtube.com and be open to a corpus of terrible things. Like, they have settings inside of there where you could set, and you could also set, it's like a spiciness rating thing on YouTube where you could be like, yo, I want my kid to have like no spicy content. Like, only come on here and watch cartoons. I don't want nothing that could be controversial. I don't want them going down no political videos. I don't want them going down no natural disaster videos. You can actually go in and shut that off, but that's on you as the parent to make sure you set that profile up, make sure you configure it. So I think it's a combination of one, actually being involved in your children's process of consuming media, because these algorithms update based on every video they like, based on everything they dislike, based on everything that they comment on. So what your kid was watching 3 days ago might not be what's on their feed today.
Right.
And it requires a little more oversight. I know we feel like we ain't got time and energy, but it's critical. Because otherwise, your kid gonna end up going down some Andrew Tate rabbit hole, developing toxic masculinity, and start screaming at you as the mama or as the parent. You feel me? And so, like, it's necessary to watch. And one thing that I will say, do I want to say this? Do I want to?
Wait, you done said everything so far.
Do I want to get sued by YouTube? Is the question. Let me say this. There's been a lot of studies done on YouTube's platform, and they have demonstrated that the algorithms, more popular content is what they tend to push people towards. And YouTube in particular as a platform has been demonstrated to have effects of pushing people down extremist rabbit holes. Right? And what I mean by extremist is like ideology that is reflected to like white power, white nationality, like what's the word? Like Nazism. That it pushes people down those rabbit holes because that's some of their most popular content. And so you really have to step in and be careful to make sure that your children don't go down these rabbit holes because the recommendation algorithm is popping up things on their feed that are out of alignment with your morals. So even with that spiciness rating, right? Like if you pick the spiciest level, your kid might come up on like a 12-year-old talking about coming out the closet. If that's not something, I mean, I'm queer, but if that's something you don't want your kid exposed to, you need to go in and turn that off. You need to step up and say, I'm going to play an active role in what my child consumes.
Yeah, I think that is a high level of danger that exists, is the impressionability that in the malleable mind of the child and how much that algorithm is really shaping your child identity, right? And then putting them in a silo of things to reinforce that identity before they even understand it, right? I remember when we was younger and on the internet, you will always have like these ads just on random internet pages, right? They'd just be on the side and just pop up and you would have to constantly click the X and it'll still keep popping up. And eventually as a child, you go click, well, there's on accident or it's on purpose, right? Now the algorithms is way smarter, right? So they've gotten all these people addicted to porn and maybe these people are saying, yo, I want to be disciplined and get it out of it. Then algorithm like, nope, ain't gonna be that easy. Right? Then the breasts pop back up. They used to have like the little cartoon breasts back in the day. I don't know what they have now. I feel like I don't go to like random web pages, so that don't pop up on the side anymore. But I'm sure like those things still exist in way smarter and intelligent ways. Right? And as a parent, you think you know what's going on in your household, but you don't. That time they spend with the phone is as dangerous as the time that they can spend with bad influences at the school. Right? Or in the streets, right? Or it could be even worse. So you really have to think about what are the new dangers, right? And create those barriers and have that thoughtfulness. I think we really have to really reevaluate our relationship with technology and all the levers that we have to put on to make sure that we can interact with this so that we have access to, right, modern day technology, but at the same time, it's not having such a effect on our humanity, right? technology shouldn't be the third influence in your house, right? We live in a godless world. So God at this point in time in America is not the head of the household, right? Right now, a lot of it is technology, right? It has replaced God. And when you don't want to talk to the kid, you on your phone. Kid don't want to talk to you, they on their phone, right? They're getting their worlds from here. And so you literally become worlds apart inside the same house. This is now algorithms of corporations that are now trying to get an end goal of getting you to buy a product, but they're unleashing an AI that they don't even understand that's figuring out a way to get this done. Because it's biohacking the psychology of you and the rest of your family, right? And it's ways that I feel like we probably will never understand, that AI has taken a part in and technology has had a place in. When we think about some of the violent acts in the world, right? We can't follow that thread to be like, all right, would this have happened if this person didn't have this I don't want to say a branded device, right, from one of these companies, but whatever it may be, we don't really think about that influence of technology and the negative impacts it has on the world. And it'll be like, maybe that wouldn't have happened if they didn't have this app or if they didn't have that device. You can't even follow that thread, right? And there's not too many people that are going to go and investigate that to even figure that out. And there's not even laws on there that can even hold people accountable if they did figure it out. So there's no incentive for nobody to investigate, right? And it's not unless it gets so bad. Let's say if there happened to be a school shooting that happened because literally it was influenced by an AI, right? Literally, and they was able to go. Then I'm not sure what it's called when they do like they got the FBI unit for cyber crimes, right? So they do it's like they go behind the scenes and they look at the fingerprints of everything and they able to track it.
Root cause analysis.
Yeah. So imagine in the future, like that has to, at some point in time, that's going to have to be a real big thing to really figure out like how much of the influence of this crime has been impacted by AI, right? And going back to the root of that and saying that, nah, this wasn't some crazy extremist group they was a part of. This was this world that was built by AI that they was a part of, that led them right into these actions, understanding them, and for whatever reward or for whatever system. Because a lot of these companies all come out and proclaim and say, actually, we don't really know how AI works, right? Because when AI is in there doing this thing, you can't see it, right? And so as it's getting better at tasks, you don't really care. Your end result is getting done, right? But that doesn't mean you can reverse engineer. NVIDIA, biggest company in the world, AI is building AI, right? So now the biggest company in the world is literally built by AI. And it is running the processing power of all the AI, but at the same time, it is creating the demand for its need. Right. And I don't think we even think if we was to draw out and really think about what's going on in the world right now, right? We see it had the biggest single day leap. And this is literally basically a company that's being ran by AI with a figurehead as a CEO. That's the kind of way I'm looking at it at these points in time, because they can't cut it off or stop it if they want to.
They could.
I mean, they can, but I mean, because they're driven, well, because they're driven by profit, you can't cut it off because then you don't have a business.
It's true.
Once you get to $1 trillion, you got to keep getting more trillions. Otherwise, you can't satisfy the stockholders. $1 billion ain't enough, right? They have earnings and they say, yo, we be earning this by 5%, man. We did 50 billion. They like, that's nice, but NVIDIA did 100 billion. So the people that's in the stock say, we'd rather go invest with them because our money is going to get a higher return. So it incentivizes this greed, right? And then so they're going to do more dangerous things to keep up with that. Because if they don't, their net worth is connected to it as well. And then they lose everything. So you become a slave of the system itself. And now instead of you really running things, you're just a part of it.
And also on top of that, if you're a director or above at a publicly traded company that's on the stock market, you have what's called fiduciary duty, which means you are legally and personally liable for making a company money. So
Yeah.
if they want to make a decision to build an AI that's preventative, but that ain't going to drive profit, they literally can't make those decisions. And I saw that a lot when I was inside of different companies where I'd say, hey, this algorithm is being hurtful and biased towards Native Americans. Can we fix it? And I remember this one vice president literally said to me, I am not going to be liable if I give you $1 million to go fix that problem when Native Americans are 2% of the U.S. population and will never significantly contribute to user growth. When I could give that same $1 million to Latino Americans for a study and it's going to return us more money. I am legally bound to do what's going to make us more money. Right? And so on top of just the pressure of where the stockholders go, there's also the legal responsibility of your middle managers and up to make money. So when you got these big companies out here dropping AI talking about, oh, we got an image generator, or oh, we got a new AI that can make raps for you, or whatever new tool that they're trying to drop, they're not testing those things for fairness if they're not forced to. They're not seeing how well they work for us in our community if they're not forced to. Because legally, why would they slow themselves down when they themselves as an individual could be held accountable criminally?
It's a for-profit company.